Hi, I'm Avery,
This is Lily.
and welcome to another episode of From the Closet. Today we're covering our first Ghibli movie on the podcast, My Neighbor Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro. Before
Yes.
today, before I watched it, I actually have never fully watched the movie, even though I owned it.
I watched it freaking years ago, like pretty early in my high school era.
Interesting.
and I've been out of high school for like 5.5 years now, so I barely remembered much of the movie. Um,
I mean, out of all the
so,
movies I've watched recently, it's very not plot heavy. I mean, not much about any plot, but it's just so magical.
yeah, it's meant to be like a feel good family movie. And can I just say the score is
Oh God,
incredible.
yes.
Like,
Ghibli never
granted,
disappoints.
Granted, a lot of it is remixes of either the opening song or the ending song, but the parts that's not is like really, really good, and actually gives me a lot
Hmm.
of it gives me a lot of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon vibes. Like, I just kept listening to it and thinking, yeah, this totally sounds like the music I would be hearing inside of a mystery dungeon.
Yeah, that I definitely understand why. And what do you say about remixing and being in a big music? Like music's definitely the biggest part of my life. I just say that remixes are probably one of the best form of music because it reminds the person listening, has them think back.
Yeah.
I think it's a great use of resources and also nostalgia that just happened like 5 minutes ago. But
Yeah. And there's like this movie would later, have influences uh, in other animations later down the road. I'm
I
trying
mean,
to.
Totoro is the Mickey Mouse of Japan right now. Like,
Well, see, one of the things that I know for sure that this movie inspired, Appa.
so that's why
Yes.
the voices sound so similar.
Well, okay,
Well,
it's not the Totoro creature that actually inspires Appa. It's
hmm,
Cat Bus.
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, like literally, Cat Bus was used as a reference for animating Appa.
I'm still wondering why the voices sounds. I was listening to this movie. I was like, Appa, is that you?
I'm wondering if D. Bradley Baker is behind the voice of Totoro. That is something that is worth, just looking up live.
Yeah. Okay. Let me close all these tabs. Don't need them.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm just gonna Google voice of Totoro. And it's just not gonna work. Great.
You
Internet,
want me
you
to
are
do it?
fantastic. Yes, please do it.
Totoro. I don't know if thing.
Yeah, so
Him. Wait, is that? No. Okay, it's just showing me a bunch of voice actors. I don't actually know which one did which.
oh, that's rough.
I know, right?
Um let
Just
me
let's just continue while I'm trying to look for it.
Yeah, so we basically start the movie with you know,
Hey, let's
it's
go. Hey, let's go.
yeah, pretty much. I was gonna talk about the
Hmm.
the farmer dude moving in the truck, but actually you're right. The movie does start with that opening song, um, which is pretty. It's pretty kiddish and stuff, but it's
Pretty
also
upbeat.
yeah, it's really good. Like a lot of this movie, it very much sets up the vibe that this movie is going for. So we have this truck sort of thing, and these two girls are riding in the back, and they're like, clearly this family is moving to a house in like the middle of the country. Um, and they get like one thing that really made me laugh is they pass by some dude on a bike, or actually no, it's the other way around. Some dude on a bike passes them, and the girls hide because they think it's a policeman. And I'm like, wow.
No, it's actually not legal to be in there while the car's driving. They just commit massive tax fraud.
Nah, it's okay. At least in America, I know this is Japan, but at least in America, it is illegal to ride in a vehicle like, well, in the back of a vehicle like that. Like,
I would, by their reaction, I would picture that that's what the movie was trying to say. That it is
although,
also.
let me just point out a little bit of the hypocrisy with American seatbelt laws for a minute. You have to wear a seatbelt unless there's like 50 of you in the same fucking vehicle. Seriously, why the fuck don't most buses have seatbelts?
Well, I do have a little bit of an answer for that. Um, at least other drivers can't hit you down. I was in a bus and there was another bus. It was two buses carrying the entire class, and apparently a car accidentally got a little bit too close to that bus. Guess what won?
The bus? But
Yeah,
yeah, like, is
the
the
car
bus
got
gonna.
totaled. The
Yeah,
car,
but is the bus gonna freaking be like a big rig 18 wheeler?
I'm not disagreeing that it should have seatbelts, but I still thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, but my entire point, buses, they need seatbelts. Moving on, we get to this house, and um, we basically sort of are more introduced into what our main characters Satsuki and Mei are like, and I mean they're pretty much just little kids. That's like
You know, actually, I was wondering if this is serious, and I really should have looked it up. What age the older one was?
um, part of me wants to say like 10. I know Mei is like 4. No, she
Yeah,
is 4. They actually said that in the movie. Mei is absolutely 4.
I don't think they actually said Sasuke's name.
You mean age?
Wait, name. Yeah, they did say Sasuke's name, but let me just tell you the name that was said in the movie.
Yeah, like what? Fumbled over your words there a bit.
But yeah, the age. I do not believe they said that, but I
Nope.
believe around 10.
Yeah, 10 seems right to me. But anyway, they go like kind of exploring this new house that they've got, and they come across these things that um, they're like tiny little black balls, and they all just disappear as soon as you come into the room. Um, and
Welcome to
throughout the
Japan
movie, they
culture.
actually call them different things. They'll call them soot gremlins, and then they'll call them soot sprites. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, welcome to Japan culture.
And then like we also get introduced to this character that they call Granny, who I swear I've heard her voice before, and I almost want to say that she's the old lady that like recognizes Katara as the granddaughter of her old friend in the end of season 1 of The Last Airbender.
Um, Let me just go Totoro. I can't find the voice of the person of the character that's the name is based off of, but hopefully I can find this one.
Yeah, like it would be really nice, but it's not that necessary.
Totoro,
But
Granny. You can continue.
anyway, so basically these soot gremlins, they're not really necessary to the movie. They don't actually do much of anything. They're more for like setting up the atmosphere, I guess. Like creating more of a vibe. Um and it's sort of implied by Granny that only young kids can see them. Um
Based off their
so
innocence.
yeah. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, and we have Satsuki going to school, and then May is still young enough that she's not going to school yet, so she just goes around playing and stuff, and
Just chilling.
yeah, just kind of just vibing, jazzing, referencing Soul there a bit. Because she's about to see something which I would very much describe as a soul. It's kind of like a small, tiny Totoro that for some reason can just teleport.
Well, I don't think it was teleport. I think it was turning invisible.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. And then there's a bigger one, and she starts chasing them both.
And then their big one.
And she runs face first into a bush, and I find that hilarious because, of course, little kids are going to do that. Actually, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to go back in time a little bit. And in some ways, this movie reminded me of why I don't like kids.
Really? Wow.
And there's only two scenes in the movie that do this. There's the moment where Satsuki is running around and is basically being like, "Hey, wake up! It's morning!" And it's like opening the door and shining light in on her sleeping father. And then May is like literally sits on her father and just starts bouncing on him, trying to wake him up. Like,
Okay,
no.
you might be interested about this. The voice actor for Granny in the English version, well, it makes sense why they have been in a lot of other Disney movies. Ursula.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from being in My Neighbor Totoro, which is a pretty decent movie, to going to The Little Mermaid.
But
Actually, Little Mermaid might have come out first, actually. But either way, I don't like that movie. Which we'll eventually cover that on the podcast, and I'll explain more why I don't like The Little Mermaid.
Also, no. My Neighbor Totoro, 1988. The Little Mermaid, 1989.
Okay, so she was probably doing, both roles at the same time.
But
because of how long it takes movies to be made. Well,
you
actually,
might want
with this
to
one,
stand by because there's two voice actors listed
for Ursula or for Granny.
for Granny.
I wonder what happened there.
Let's find. I'm gonna check if I can actually find that role in Oh wow, yeah.
So, anyway, let's just continue on a little bit. I will get to the point where the other scene in the movie that reminded me of why I don't like kids. But I'll do it later because it comes much later in the movie. But anyway, so after May has just run face first into a bush, she then discovers, oh, there's this secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel. What the hell is this?
What? And I mean, yeah, she's basically like, what the hell is this? And starts running through.
Yeah. I might have some breaking news here. There's two versions of My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh boy. I was not aware of this.
So okay, um, the first actor called Granny, but apparently in the trauma version, English version voice, Nanny.
Weird. Um,
Huh?
so I think it's pretty obvious to our listeners which version we ended up watching.
Yeah,
For the record, it's the one on HBO Max.
I'm
Um,
gonna do some more research and you can explain the plot a bit more.
yeah. So basically, she just is running through this little secret tunnel. She comes across a big tree, and there's also a secret tunnel inside of the tree. And she falls through this secret tunnel, and she finds a Snorlax. Right?
Snorlax.
Right? That's totally a Snorlax, right? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Snorlax was inspired by Totoro.
I mean, I would understand why Snorlax has like the previous evolution is a smaller version of it.
Yeah,
It's
like
just like the
Munchlax also looks like that smaller version, and I'm like, it just makes so much sense to me. And like, I actually have a shiny
what?
I actually have a shiny Snorlax named Totoro.
Okay, so I finally figured it out.
What is it now?
The movie we watched, I think it was the Disney version. Apparently, Fox did their own version.
Ew.
Yeah,
Is that okay? But anyway,
the well, both of them are the same movie, but it's just which one was the translation.
yeah. So basically, May comes across this Snorlax and decides to nickname it Totoro. Oh God. Okay. And she falls asleep, and then eventually Satsuki gets home, and of course, their father has been working because like he's a teacher at a university, so you know how much they have to work even at home, and they don't get paid
Okay,
for that.
okay, but let's dial it back to this father for a second here. It's just like something interesting slash paranormal happens. Father, what happened? I don't know.
He's like, "Oh, what happened? Oh, okay, cool."
Big
Like.
tree. The most forget this later, but the worst time this happened was big tree.
Oh yeah, when okay, we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit later in the movie. But basically, Satsuki comes home and they both realize, hey, May's missing. So they go looking for her. Satsuki finds May's hat, and she starts running through the secret tunnel. And
It's no longer secret. It's just a tunnel.
yeah, well, I mean, now it's a tunnel. Now it's just a tunnel because now it's a secret to everybody. God, I'm making all the references here. But anyway, finds May just sleeping in a little clearing. There's no tree. There's no
No
Totoro.
Totoro.
Yeah. And then suddenly, May can't find her way back to the tree and just finds that it basically just the tunnel now just leads in like a weird semicircle sort of thing. And she just gets spit back out into their yard.
I find it interesting how the father knew what was happening.
Yeah. And like not May, Satsuki doesn't initially believe May, and then as soon as her father says something, suddenly she's 100% on board with everything that May said.
Always trust your elders.
Right?
I mean, that is a big Japan thing.
And can I say, like, um, as much as it's nice to sometimes get like completely healthy families like this one,
Mhm.
like I feel like what happens in movies a lot of the time is we see the exact same type of family relationship, and we want something different, even if it's not always necessarily good. But sometimes we do want just your normal healthy family that,
Hmm.
and this is what that is. Although healthy might be a bit of a bad word to use here because their mom certainly is
It's
not
not.
healthy. But they all
I was
have
thinking the
healthy
exact same thing.
yeah, but they all have healthy relationships, and that's really what I was going for.
Not healthy bodies.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes, like, I don't know, whenever you have a family, a movie that is about a family, oftentimes you will have that family be really, really bad. Um,
Or dead.
yeah, or dead. Like a lot of the times, these children's
Disney.
movies. Yeah, a lot of the times these children's movies, um, like the protagonists are children and the parents are just dead or not ever around, and it's not believable. Um, and with this, it's believable. Their father may be overworked and he may be a bit more laid back than I would like.
Yeah, a little bit lazy in some cases, but not terrible person.
I
Just
wouldn't say that he's lazy, because he definitely seems like he's a hard worker. Like, um,
okay, maybe not lazy. How would I say? Non-observant.
yeah, like I would not be surprised to hear that
Well,
this father got into a child negligence case.
also half of the movie was his lack of observing. The
Yeah,
other half is he can't see anything. The Totoro magic won't actually let him.
yeah. He can't see Totoro. He can't see Cat Bus.
Hashtag Catbus best character. When
Is
this
it
is out, get
bad?
this.
Is it bad that sometimes I was thinking that that it would be funny if Cat Bus ate the children?
Nah, man. If it's gonna happen, Totoro's gonna do it.
No, see, Cat Bus can totally just do it without anyone even realizing what has happened for several seconds. It would like you would definitely see that Totoro is about to eat the characters before he does it.
Yeah, but it'd be funny.
So anyway, where was I in terms of the plot? Oh yeah, secret tunnel. They figured out that everyone knows it's a tunnel now, so it's no longer a secret tunnel.
And then what happened after that? It was it like the bathtub thing,
Yeah, that scene. I don't know.
which the first time the music came on with the black mustangs, decided okay, bye.
Yeah, like okay, so the bathtub scene makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Um, and I mean it's mostly because of culture differences between America and
Yeah,
Japan. Because like Japan doesn't really have that much of a fear of nudity.
Japan fears nothing.
I mean, they fear some things, but nudity certainly isn't one of them. And I mean, humans are nude sometimes, and it wouldn't make sense for them not to be naked in the bathtub. And it's not like it's not like they ever actually show anything, which thank freaking God they never did.
What this? I'm pretty sure this movie is not rated R. Also, I would not want to be that person who had to animate that.
Yeah, I would not either. Uh, but anyway,
I guess during that scene, I was more thinking like, in my like what I've been taught is a little bit weird, but knowing what Japan is, I'm just like, I mean, nothing weird is happening. It's
yeah,
just
but just like if you showed me that scene
without context.
out of context, and I had never seen the rest of the movie before, and I didn't. And let's even say I didn't know about these differences between Japanese and American culture.
Yeah.
I that scene would make me way more uncomfortable than it already does.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's just it. And then like apparently the soot gremlins or the soot sprites, whatever you want to call them, they decide, oh, these people are nice, let's leave. Which makes me wonder, what the hell would they have done if they decided these people weren't nice? Would they have just stuck around and made all of their furniture dirty? Like, what exactly are the powers of soot gremlins?
I think I have to go into the spirits of Japanese culture to find that answer.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this is. No, I have no proof on this, but I'm pretty sure most of this is completely based on them spirits that have already existed in Japanese culture, which I find it very interesting, especially explaining. Um, he knew all of this.
Yeah. And thinking about it too, despite the age of this movie, the animation looks really good. And like
Welcome to Ghibli.
this yeah, it's like Ghibli inspired a lot of the animation behind Avatar the Last Air well, particularly My Neighbor Totoro, but
Mhm.
uh there's a lot of Ghibli influence in Avatar the Last Airbender, which then itself influenced pretty much all of Western animation going
Oh yeah,
forward. Cuz like
Ghibli affected almost. I mean, it affected Japanese animations probably. Um, Ghibli itself, and I say this again, Ghibli is the Disney of Japan.
yeah, except maybe not as many war crimes.
I mean, there's also they're way more copyright heavy.
I mean, in some ways, yes. Considering it took them fucking ages to make their movies digitally available. Like, we are fortunate to even be able to record this podcast discussing this movie, because if it hadn't been for them finally relenting and putting their movies on HBO Max, there is no way we could have done this.
I guess while we're on the topic, we can also talk about the weird releasing of this movie and all Studio Ghibli movies. How that Disney had the right to distribute it to but only physically. Warner
Yeah,
Brothers got the digital rights.
and to me that's really weird. Like, you wouldn't think that those would be separate. I've never
And
heard of them being separate for anything other than Studio Ghibli.
and now that I'm looking at it, I believe that Disney not only got the physical rights, it also got the rights to translate the movie
Hmm.
because that would understand why there's two versions.
Yeah, and it's the one that we watched had Dakota Fanning in it apparently, and I'm not sure who she plays, because
Um,
I can't recognize her voice at all. Like, I it's just a name that I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that name before.
who?
Dakota Fanning.
Hmm. I don't believe I heard that. Um, yeah, just a name.
Yeah, but
Maybe I can actually find the voice for Totoro now.
but
Voice
going forward with more of the plot,
right.
and stuff. So yeah, we've basically already talked about how their mom is in the hospital. But I believe the next scene after the gremlins leaving the house is Satsuki and Mei going through Granny's garden and picking food.
Hmm.
That's if my memory serves correctly. It's hard to remember things that, like, while this movie itself is memorable, it's kind of hard to remember the things that actually happened in the
Actually, I feel
movie.
like the next part would be them going off to the hospital.
Yeah, maybe it was. Um,
Because I feel like if the scene that you're talking about is correct, that'd be at the ending of the movie. Well, close to the ending, where it's like, I found this corn. I'm gonna give it.
yeah, so I guess they go to the hospital then, and they visit their mom. Um, and we get to see how their relationship with their mom is, and like it's a really like it's a really nice, healthy relationship. Don't know what that's like because I've never had a good relationship with my mom.
Yeah, it's a healthy relationship, not healthy person. Which, now that I think about it, I cannot remember why she was hospitalized.
I
I
don't think
don't
they
think.
actually said why she was initially put in the hospital, but I do know that they said that she's going to have to stay over at the hospital for more time because she got a cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's this whole thing about uh, basically that May is pretending that she's not scared of the house, and of course, their mother sees that and says that she'll sleep with May, and it's like it's this really it's this it just shows some really good parenting, where their mom just tells May that it's because she's scared because she doesn't want to hurt May's. I mean, of course, May's not thinking about this, but she doesn't want to hurt May's pride. Like, and primarily doesn't want to make her cry by, you know,
Yeah.
because May thinks she's a big girl now, and
Let's
she
see how big
can't,
that girl is at the ending of the movie.
and she just can't be, like, she can't be scared because big girls don't get scared. But anyway, so they go home, and then I think next is the grant. No, next is next. Satsuki goes back to school. We sort of kind of figure out. Oh, their dad is working, like teaching at the university at that particular point in time, and then May just kind of shows up. Um, and was like, oh, she wouldn't stop crying unless Granny brought her to Satsuki. And then it's like, okay, I don't know. I guess olden times this would have worked, but if this had happened at any school in the modern era, there is no way they would have let May into the classroom.
Well, it depends. Japan schools are very different. I mean, still different.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Japan schools are actually a lot more strict than American schools. And you know how strict American schools are. I mean, we ask 18-year-olds to make important financial decisions about their future and the rest of their life when a month ago they had to ask to go to the bathroom. So, I mean,
I mean, it'd always be like more strict in some areas and less strict in others. But we're off track.
yeah, but bleh, American schools suck. School system is terrible. Anyway, back to the movie. She starts drawing a big Totoro, and in typical fashion, like somebody quietly asks what she's drawing, and she just says, "It's a big Totoro" at normal volume. And I'm like, "Yep, typical 4-year-old kid not picking up on social cues." um,
I mean, I wouldn't count it as real if it wasn't. She did.
But yeah, on the way home, it starts raining, and they don't have an umbrella, so they just stand under this little thing that also has a statue. I remember it being a statue
Yeah.
under it as well. And this little boy who we've seen a couple of times throughout the movie, and is kind of a little boy. Like
Hmm.
honestly, that's just how he acts. He's a little boy. Um, he hands over his umbrella and
And
just
then
starts
runs.
running home. Um, his umbrella, which by the way is filled with holes, and they
Haha.
go.
Not very effective,
Satsuki,
now if you ask me.
yeah, Satsuki and Mei get home and they discover, oh, their dad left his umbrella. So they go to the bus stop to wait for him, but he doesn't get off the first bus, and then he doesn't get off the second bus, and then they're waiting, and Mei falls asleep. So Satsuki just starts, carrying her on her back.
Which is pretty cute, I was gonna say.
And then Totoro shows up, and this becomes the first time we see Cat Bus. But
Bus.
also, but also, they lose their dad's umbrella because they gave it to Totoro.
I just love how Totoro appears and disappears. It's like, okay, I'm here now.
Yeah, hi, I'm here now, and now I'm leaving. And then after Cat Bus has left, then another bus shows up, and by the time this bus shows up, the rain has stopped. So
So you said how good this animation was. I want to say how fluid the animation is, especially with Cat Bus.
yes, I mean, as
Cat,
we know, it would later inspire Appa, who was beautifully animated himself. So
but I think Cat Bus was so much movement and life to it. Like, you cannot look at this Cat Bus and think like it jumping around is not the best thing you've ever seen.
and some of the sound effects for the Cat Bus, particularly the sound effect of the door opening and closing, is just that it's gorgeous. But anyway, their dad shows up on a bus. Rain's already stopped at this time, so they kind of waited for nothing. And we learn, oh, he overworked, missed his train, and had to wait for another bus.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep. So while Totoro was there at the bus stop with him, he gave Satsuki a thing full of acorns, and they decided to plant these acorns in a garden. And
A few days later,
several
they won't grow.
several months pass, it seems, in such a short amount of time in the actual movie. Um,
Yeah,
and May is just standing there waiting for them to grow for several days, and it's like, yep, that's what a kid
this
would
is
do, not realizing oak trees take forever to grow.
unless you have a magical spirit helping you,
Yeah, unless you have magical spirits helping you grow them to like huge size overnight, and then
and then
suddenly they're
back
just
down to normal.
yeah, it's kind of funny there. So then, like after this big tree scene, where they kind of just go on a magical wind ride with Totoro. Not much really of significance is happening, but
I think a lot of significance is happening right now because a magical wind ride with Totoro is my type of future.
but basically, I think the next scene is then the scene where they're going through Granny's garden and picking food, and a
Hmm.
telegram comes for their father, but he's not home. So this little boy comes and delivers it to Satsuki, and then like Satsuki's like, "Well, Dad's not going to be home for quite some time," and Granny's like, "Well, then you probably better open it in case it's an emergency." Turns out it is, sort of,
It's an
but
emergency, but it's not. No, it never
no,
was.
it's just like the reveal that, oh, their mom has to stay over at the hospital over the weekend, even though she was supposed to come home. She can't now. And what follows is the next scene that reminds me of why I don't like kids.
Well, here we have pessimistic and optimistic.
Yeah. You have May just screaming it's not fair. And you have Satsuki who is also frustrated. Like, I understand where both of them are coming from. It still annoys me. Like, you have Satsuki who's extremely frustrated and she lashes out at May, understandably. And I mean, she's not even really that mean. But then, like, when she storms off, May just starts crying and is like, she's so mean. And I'm like, girl, if this is the meanest your sister ever gets, you've got it good.
Though I will have to admit that the pessimistic side also doesn't help with when it clashes with the optimistic. Whereas
Yeah.
she's probably already dead.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me?
Like, you've literally already been told that it's just a cold.
Yeah.
And I mean, so basically, May ends up seeing Satsuki crying, and like Granny holding her and stuff, and she runs away and is trying to bring corn to their mom at the hospital. But of course, she's a 4-year-old, and there's no way she has that sense of direction. So of course,
Nor it's like 3 hours.
yeah. So of course she gets lost. Duh. But then Granny and May realize after a while that she's gone and they can't find her. So
They knew where she went, obviously, but
they had an idea of where she went. So they start searching. And they're searching for a while, and we get
like,
to we get to what is possibly my favorite scene in the movie. Satsuki is running, and she sees this little boy whose name I still can't remember on a bike. And he tells her that a while ago they found a little girl's sandal in the pond, and that they don't know if it's actually May's sandal. I cannot imagine the emotions that Satsuki is feeling. Not only is she already worried about her mom and whether or not her mom will be okay, now she has to worry about her sister and is afraid that her sister might be dead at the bottom of a pond. So she is booking it, and it is a long run that she has to go through to get to this pond. And like there's a point where she has to stop because her body can't handle it. And she still has to keep going because every second is another second that something could happen to her sister if she's not at the bottom of this pond. She finally gets to where everybody is searching through this pond, and Granny shows her this sandal, and it's not hers. And the both of them, like, the emotions, like, it is so emotional for them that they literally fall to the ground. Because, like, you're not only just relieved that your sister's not dead at the bottom of the pond, you're also scared because now you don't have any idea where she is.
And then the final desperation move.
Yeah.
Let's just go to a spirit to help.
Yeah, let's just go to this spirit. Like, Satsuki, of course, gets this idea to try to find Totoro, to get Totoro to find Cat Bus so that she can search more effectively. And of course, Cat Bus takes them right to her. Thank God. And we can see that even May is distraught with being lost. Um, but Cat Bus picks them up and actually takes them to the hospital where their father has already gone to. And this entire time, their father has no idea that May even went missing. I don't think he ever finds out. And
Doesn't need to.
May,
Well, probably finds out after the movie. You know.
yeah, May basically puts the corn on the windowsill. They pick it up and stuff, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. We get like another song, which, um, it's the ending song of the movie, and the credits roll.
Speaking of the soundtrack, there's just this magical song that plays like with Totoro and the Dust Mites.
Yes, it very much
That's
reminds me of something that I would hear in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Nearly all the original score of this movie reminds me of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
reminds me of like beautiful. This is the definition of what beautiful is.
Yeah, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon music. Open a dictionary and look at the definition of the word beautiful, and right next to it you will see a picture of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon soundtrack. And then right below that you will see a picture of the My Neighbor Totoro soundtrack. But yeah,
Animation flawless. Well, I want to say flawless, but flawless at the time.
like
Um,
it is really good animation. There are other movies we're going to cover later that um, are animated really beautifully for the most part, but then there's this one part where I'm like, ooh, that does not look good. And we'll get to those when we get to them. There's
I
nothing
don't
in
think
this
that. Yeah,
there's
there's
nothing
nothing.
in this movie that applies to for me.
It's just a really solid movie.
Yes. Um but unfortunately, there is a very important aspect to this movie that
Hmm.
um makes me not like watching it as much. And it has to do with my gender dysphoria. I have
Hmm.
it, a lot of the times I will see like on an Ask Trans subreddit or some sort of thing where
Hmm.
somebody will ask, what weird thing gives you dysphoria? Seeing little girls running around and being happy and doing things that little girls do. That is the weird thing that gives me dysphoria, especially when it's in movies and TV. I have no idea why it's especially when it's in movies and TV, but
So they're like especially happy too. Like
yes.
even if I wasn't, I'm just like, damn, I want to be this happy in my daily life.
And like, I mean, it is roughly at this point that a lot of people would say that, if you're a kid, you should treasure that time that you're a kid. But honestly, in my life, um, being a kid wasn't great. I have not missed being a kid at all. And I can honestly say with 100% confidence that my adult life has been the best years of my life so far.
Controversial opinion, but I understand where
Yeah.
you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Like
They're
so
definitely.
far, my adult life has been better than everything that happened in my childhood and my teenage years. And I'm 24. So yeah, I am sure that there will be years in my adult life where maybe I'll miss my 20s. I can totally see that happening because like I'm
Hmm.
probably the happiest I've ever been. Um,
I'm at the time where it's just like, you'll never forget your high school graduation. You'll never forget high school. It's gonna be the happiest moment of your entire life.
I'm gonna be honest. Um, I don't think I could name 20 people that I went to school with.
Which is kind of sad because I know how big your class was.
Yeah,
Not. That's what it was. How big was
my
your class? It's not.
my graduating class literally had 11 students. So yeah,
Well, of course you couldn't.
but that was just my graduating class. There were kids in other grades. I couldn't tell you my entire graduating class, and it was only 11 students. Like, obviously, I can go and grab my yearbooks because I still
Mhm.
have them sitting around my apartment somewhere, and I could probably find at least 40 people that I remember. But if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, no, I can't remember them. But we're getting off track. The point is, a lot of
Yeah.
people will see this movie and come away with treasure the time that you're a kid. And I don't get that.
We might have to wrap this up soon.
Oh, yeah, we're going to wrap this up soon because I'm literally about to say that
Yeah.
we need to get to rating it.
I would say like 9 out of 10.
I'm only going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10.
Really
And that is purely because of the difficulty it brings me to watch it.
makes sense.
And also a little bit of how hard it is to remember the things that actually happened in it. There's that too. But yeah, shit, I almost forgot. Before we go, we need to spin the wheel. And it is on the wrong list at the moment. Okay, so Lily, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, spinning the wheel now. Of course, you guys can't see it.
I
Lily
can't see
can't
it.
even see it. Oh, great. Okay, so it has landed on 101 Dalmatians.
How interesting.
Yeah. So when we get around to covering 101 Dalmatians, we're only covering the animated movie, the one that everybody knows. I know there was a live action version that's also pretty old, and it's not part of the modern set of Disney live actions. We're not covering that. Anyway, uh, we'll see you
Yes.
guys again in the next
Bye.
episode. Goodbye.